what the God man them there? Well, welcome to the mailbox. Right here on Love 101, your family station. This is August 10th, 2022. Man a man from Morn Point to Nick Grill. Great to have you on this program. It's gonna be a wonderful show because a whole lot of things will be taking place. Red and green relationship flags, and we want the man them to know, are you Mr. Right? And then what about the ladies? How do you find Mr. Right? I'm Kevin Bailey. My co-host is right here, Sir
Hey
Courtney.
Kevin, Monday, brethren. It's been a fantastic weekend. We want to firstly say though, thanks to Foxrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. And today's topic, decoding the red and green flag relationships. What to look out for when dating a man? How to know if he's Mr. Right or Mr.
Ah,
Left?
left, left, right, Mr. Right. And we have some wonderful gentlemen in the place. No stranger to the mailbox. We have Dr. Paul Smith, brethren and colleague. He is counseling psychologist at New Life Counseling and Psychotherapy Service. He's also a justice of the peace. He's marriage officer, founder, and one of the directors of Love and Restoration Ministries. He is married, so he's husband and is associate counseling psychologist at Family Life Ministries and Choose Life International. Welcome, Dr. Paul Smith, brethren. Sir Smith, good to have
Present.
you again.
Good to be here.
Bless you. Also with Dr. Paul Smith, we have Antonio Dawson. He's psychological therapist, emotional support coach, founder of Speak Black Men movement, which aims to educate and empower black males about mental health. He's a father, he's an author and husband. Therapist of the Year from the Inside Out Wellbeing Awards. Good afternoon, Sir Antonio Dawson. Good to have you with us. Thank you for taking your time out to be with us today. You need to unmute your
You're
mic, Sir
muted,
Dawson.
Antonio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful privilege to be here today. Looking forward to this conversation.
The pleasure is ours as well. Thank you so very much. So we have two gentlemen in the place, and man a man, I want you to listen out, I want you to encourage the man them to listen, and then the ladies know, and know, they're paying keen attention because they want to know how they can find Mr. Right. And the man them want to know how they can become Mr. Right too. So we want, because two right can make one wrong. So we want the two rights to be right up. All right. So coming up at 6:05, we want to take a look. Just a favorite folder. We're looking at this little scenario. He has a date with her, and she brings a friend. Should he pay for the friend's meal? We have these experts here that have to tell us about this one. So imagine you are looking forward to a date with her alone, and she brings a friend and say, his friend and me, how should you pay the meal for both persons? We want to talk a little bit about that as well.
We want to invite our listeners to watch the program live on social media. We are on Facebook and YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, you can comment via Facebook or YouTube or via our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. Feel free to interact because when we get to that favorite folders at 5 minutes past 6, I'm sure it will be quite interesting. Yeah.
Well, Courtney, we have to give the man them a shout out. So before we continue, let's shout out the man them from yes and no more point to Nigel, but also to foreign, whether in a Portmore or overseas, right? So after three, one, two, three,
Monday!
Monday up. Yes.
It could be as
So
well that you're
man,
also in Ultra Rares.
That is true. So, we have to get a little information. Gentlemen, can a woman find Mr. Right? Just a opening question. And want to start with Antonio. Can the woman find Mr. Right when there are so many challenges and complexities? And just to say, most women want to be married. At the same time, we have what 50% of first marriages end in divorce, second marriages 60, and third marriages 70%. And it seems that you thought that the more we do it, the better we would become. But it seems that there are some challenges. But just an opening, Sir Antonio, can a woman really be assured that she finds Mr. Right? Your thoughts on that?
I certainly believe that. Definitely, any woman who really believes in love and position herself in a place to find love can find love, and there's still good men out there who are looking for women who have the qualities that they really need. The thing is, sometimes they want a man, but they really are not prepared to really wait for the right man. And so, in a society where it's all about so much of the things that are like microwave, things are microwave popcorn, needed quick. We sometimes settle for things that represent itself with red flag, but we think it's right. And we want to talk about those things tonight. So I definitely think we can find love. Women can find love if they really willing to wait on the right person.
Thank you, Sir Dawson. Who knows? Some people might like the color red, and so they trek along that path. Dr. Paul Smith, you tell us, can a man be Mr. Right?
Yes,
Can a
I
woman find
agree with
Mr. Right?
Antonia. It's very much possible.
And not WRIGHT.
Oh, yes, it's very much possible. It's very much possible, and I agree with what Antonia said. So a woman can find Mr. Right, but not Mr. Perfect.
Hmm.
Brilliant.
Mr. Right, but not Mr. Perfect. So a woman has to be cautious as to what is on her wish list, and that ideal person, because she's looking
Hmm.
for somebody with perfection, and
Hmm.
that Mr. Right might not have all the qualities, right? And so there are persons who have this ideal list and they keep ticking off for years, and sometimes Mr. Right has come and has left, right? So, of course,
Mm.
true love can be found. They are men of integrity and valor and honesty, and they're out there. And as Antonia said, that is not something that a woman rushes into, but makes sure that there is some kind of compatibility, and we'll talk some more about that. But I want to make the distinction that she ought not to be looking for Mr. Perfect.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So you can find Mr. Right, but not necessarily Mr. Perfect.
Mr.
What
Perfect,
what what would be
yes.
some of those qualities that Mr. Right should possess? What does Mr. Right look like? Can anyone tell me? Sir Dawson, what does Mr. Right look like?
I think I'm a great advocate for men really learning to express their feelings and not just be sexually connected to a woman, but having other forms of intimacy. And one of the things that we see in relationship, a lot of people go into relationship purely for sexual intimacy when they have not really explored the concept of emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, experiential intimacy, spiritual intimacy. Are we compatible in these areas? Do we share the same values? Do we like the same things socially from even a spiritual standpoint? Are we equally yoked, not in the concept of just the Bible way, but do we like the same things? Do we want to go the same places? Do we have similar goals? And I think one of the things that we find is that relationship these days, we have what ignites it, but not what sustains it. Other people might have the attraction. We there's this thing in Jamaica now. Everybody wants to talk about the dolly look, And you might have the dolly look, but do you really have the dolly qualities? Do you have the qualities that will make a man feel as if they want to stay in that relationship? Because it's good to have things on the external, but what is it that you're carrying in terms of your values, your morals, and are you a person who's willing to apologize when things go wrong? Or you kind of person that has some sense of empathy towards your partner. And these are some of the qualities that I think is so important when a man is going to a relationship. Don't just look for someone who has that sexual appeal alone, but look at the all those qualities I looked at earlier, things of the experiential aspect. Do you like to travel? Would she want to travel with you? Do you like to do things? Do you like to have intellectual conversations? Because if you're one person who likes to be stimulated intellectually and your partner doesn't like to read or doesn't like anything around us, it's going to create a challenge, because you might find people with those qualities and the next thing you want to do is to move on to that other person. So you must know exactly what is it that you want going into a relationship.
Thank you, Antonio. Your response, Sir Smith.
So I say detour to what Antonia said, and he mentioned a number of things. He mentioned listening, he mentioned empathy, and I use the word emotional intelligence, right? And it takes in the empathy, it takes in self-awareness. The man need to
Mm-hmm.
know who he is. The man need
Mm,
to
Yes.
know where he's going and
Yes.
what route will take him there, right? He needs to put that on the table. I'm a man. I have reached a particular level in my life where I am settled, I'm solid, right? I'm about to take on a partner, but first of all, I am solid. I know where I'm going, right? He talks about the fact that in emotional intelligence talk about self-awareness. Who am I? What do I bring to the table? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths,
mm,
right? And they're willing to have an open conversation, making yourself vulnerable emotionally, right? To say
Mm-hmm.
this is who I am. And so when persons are in relationship and they can connect on an emotional level, that is a form of intimacy. It brings them
Mm-hmm.
closer together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are in a culture where men, by and large, say, boy, I can't disclose my weaknesses or my inadequacies or my insecurities. But trust me, it is attractive, right? When my wife and
Mm-hmm.
I can sit down and talk about some things and I can share certain things, we're closer than ever, right? And
Yes.
this is
mm,
one thing that is missing from the dating relationship. There is this kind of facade, and I am perfect and I'm okay, but then there are things that the other partner needs to know and say, okay, here we go again. We can connect on this particular issue, right? So to make yourself vulnerable, be able to start conversation. And it's not about sexual attraction alone. There must be intellectual attraction, emotionally attraction, social attraction. Do we like the same things? If we get married, will I be at home and you are at a social event and I have no interest, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
have a skill, I have no interest in your well-being. So showing interest in your well-being, listening to you, not
Yes.
necessarily solving the situation, but listening to you attentively. I want to hear more of what you're saying. I care about what you're going through. There's this connection. It is very, very important.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Smith. You know, it's interesting to hear. And we want to look at some red flags as well. We sound as if we're hearing some green flags, what to look for, and decoding what is happening. We're going to take our first commercial break. So we're going to throw us back right to studio, and we'll be back in a few. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox, on the family station, Love 101.
Fosrich 60 days up to 60% discount sale is on now. Sale on electrical, lighting, solar cables. Get Philips LED bulbs for $190. Visit all branches for breakers, panels, solar floodlights, wires, switches, lighting, and more lighting. Happy 60th anniversary, Jamaica. Sale ends August 31. Open Sundays. Visit www.fosrich.shop.
King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow. Some summer 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Fun of summer. Enough winnings, make sure you're in.
Win your share of over $60 million in cash and prizes. Scratch your phone and win instant prize, plus a chance for win weekly prize of cash, tablets, and smart TVs. Dial star 129 star 6 number sign to activate any unlimited social plan. Get a yard and road plan or pay your bill on time and in full to win. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Flow, some summer. Fun of summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Some summer. Enough winnings, make sure you're in. The king said that. King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow, some summer. Plenty prize in a flow, some summer.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Hello, Jamaica. Phosphate 60 days up to 60% discount sale is on now. Sale on electrical, lighting, solar cables. Get Philips LED bulbs for $190. Visit all branches for breakers, panels, solar floodlights, wires, switches, lighting, and more lighting. Happy 60th anniversary, Jamaica. Sale ends August 31. Open Sundays. Visit www.phosrich.shop.
It's Independence once again, and that means celebration. And Virgil's big Independence Day sale. Get 10% off Virgil Everglow, 303, 404, Royale, Weatherproof, and more. Don't miss out on Virgil's big savings in every drop. Visit your nearest hardware or the color shop now. Happy 60th Independence, Jamaica. Berger, for lasting beauty and protection.
Welcome back. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox, live on Love 101 FM, the family station. We have two wonderful guests with us today as we discuss the topic, red and green relationship flags to look out for when dating a man. How to know he's Mr. Right. We want to continue to thank Phosrich Company, who is our sponsor, your electrical and lighting people. Go and go check them out now. We have a voice note as well that we want to hear, but we were listening to Dr. Paul. Oh, let's go with the voice note.
Yes, good evening, Mailbox. I like that comment. A woman can find Mr. Right, but not Mr. Perfect. You know what? Finding Mr. Right or Mrs. Right and looking for Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. That's what led to a lot of divorce. Yep. The Mr. Perfect what that they don't find. I don't marry that's it, so I won't speak of myself, but I think for those who marry, I think because they are looking for Mr. Perfect for real and not Mr. Right. That's why so many marriages end up in divorce. Oh my God.
Oh, thank you, Koala, for giving us that feedback, and really appreciate your feedback. Just want our listeners to know that we have Dr. Paul Smith with us, counseling psychologist, and we have Antonio Dawson, psychological therapist, and they have been with us, giving us insight, looking at these questions. Gentlemen, the scenario oftentimes is, for example, you're both Christians and you are in the same denomination, and since you're male and I am female and we're Christians, we should be able to just marry and live happily ever after. Talk to us about that. Why is it that so many of these don't work, and were there red flags? What would be some of the red flags to look for, even though you are in the same denomination, even though you're Christian? So I want to start, Dr. Smith, on that.
All right. awesome question. And I'm going to kind of put in something in the mix though. My concept of dating, it's an interview. It's an interview. It's getting to know someone with the likelihood that that person might not be Mr. Right, right? It's having an open mind that as I get to know you, I am not going to put a label on you the very first night or day I see you, right? And say you are mine and nobody else, right? We are open to the possibility that after the end of the interview, however long it is, right, there is a probability that we might go our separate ways amicably because from day one, we see that we are getting to know each other, right? I can't get to know you unless I interact with you, until I see you in certain particular situations, right? I can observe you. With that said, we can be in the same denom and we are not compatible. We can be saying hallelujah at the same time and we are not compatible, right? And so there are certain red flags that we ought to look for. And one of the first one I'll pick from out of the box is the investment that the man puts in the relationship from day one, even in dating, right? How much do I call the female? Is she the only one calling me? Right? Is she the only one calling me? Right? And when she calls me, I say, boy, you know, my phone broke down and I took it to the repair shop. And I always have an excuse for not turning up on an appointment. Whenever we're supposed to meet, I don't turn up, right? I realize that the woman realized she's the one making 80% of the attempt to keep the date going, to keep the communication going. When we're together, the woman is the only one talking. The gentleman refuses to disclose certain things about himself. He's quite hesitant. You can see it in his body language, right? You can feel the resistance to touch certain areas. And so that door is constantly closed. And so the woman, no matter how hard she pushes, there is a resistance because he refuses to disclose part of himself that might be integral to the woman. Say, all right, you might be Mr. Right. So that becomes important. That's a red flag, right? The fact that she's treated with courtesy, with respect, and it's genuine, right? With care, you know, a listening ear, right? And I know that there are women who don't necessarily want a problem to be solved, but they want the gentleman to be able to listen, right? And you listen and you do not judge, you respect, right? You do not allow her to feel belittled and say what you're saying is rubbish, you know, that kind of thing. And what I say is the right thing. You have to watch out for that. You know, the condescending tone, the condescending actions, those are things. You know, does he treat me with respect? Even if he disagrees with me, how does he do it? How does he show it? You know, do I still feel as if I am somebody of value and of worth, even though we do not agree on a particular discussion? Can we talk about anything, right? Can we connect, right, on an emotional level? That becomes important. I won't say everything because Antonia has to come in as well.
I think you've covered most of what I had in mind, but I want to start from the
Oh no.
I want to start from the premise that one of the biggest misconception that has continued to lead to the church being one of the place with the most divorce is the fact that people are oftentimes forced into marriage the moment they recognize that there is some level of communication taking place. They are encouraged to get married. And I want anyone listening tonight to understand or today to understand that relationship should not be forced. Relationship should be paced. And in pasting, you want to take time, as Dr. Simit said, to really recognize, is this the full package and not the perfect package, but does this person have, yes, they have the spiritual side. It appears they have the spiritual side because the person you're dating, they might look holy in church, but is that holiness reflected outside of the church? Are they going to uphold the same values, Christ-like values, when they're not on the front stage? Because the reality is, We all have a front stage and a backstage personality. A person, when they have visitors coming to their house, they clean up the front stage. But if you check the backstage, there are many things stored that you would be disgusted if you would really see. And it's the same thing in a relationship. When you're getting to know somebody, you don't just want to know what's on the front stage. What is in the backstage of your life? And that's where the communication comes in. As Dr. Smith said, you want to be able to really talk about the things that you're struggling with. The red flag for me is when there is toxic communication. This person causes you to feel belittled. They cause you to feel inadequate. They cause you to you have more moments when you're crying in this early stage of the relationship. They say things that offend you. They don't uplift your self-worth, your self-concept. You constantly feel like you're walking on eggshell because something could go wrong. And a lot of people are in Christ like what they consider a Christian relationship, but the total compatibility is not there, because in the relationship there are more things causing you to feel stress than feel like this relationship is preparing you for something that will build into a beautiful relationship. I think it goes back to the conversation that you're able to have in this early stage. Can you talk about things like money? Because one of the things that cause divorce is also around finances. What are your goals for the future? Because if you're an ambitious person and this person is not willing to grow with you, if you now grow into certain capacity and you feel like this person cannot represent you in these areas, you're going to look for that person that will be on the status or the level that you are. So for me, one of the things that I think in every relationship, you want to find somebody who is willing to grow with you. If you're willing to grow with me on every stage of my life, then yes, I believe that that relationship can work. But in the concept of just looking through it to the lens of the spiritual lens, you're setting yourself up to fail, because most of your relationship will not be based on the spiritual. It's going to be based in the real world, in the day-to-day things that you have to do. What are the things that you're going to do that annoys this person, and can they deal with you in a supportive way even when you get on their worst side? And one of the things is that people only want to be on someone's wrong side. But who are they when you're on their wrong side? How do they relate to you? What do they say? How do they treat you? Another thing that breaks up church relationship is envy and jealousy. Are you someone in ministry? Are you preaching? Are you teaching? Can they manage you on that platform? Can they support you on that platform? Because what we see in ministry is that sometimes people are evolving, and for example, a woman might be evolving in ministry, and the man thought you would have been at that stage, and he's not there, and he might feel jealous. So you have to really look out for these things, as you start to date. Where are you going in this relationship? Can we deal with the changes that are coming? Is this person controlling? Because even in the church context, they will use the Bible to want to control you. Use the word, the scriptures. They want to check in on you. You need to give a report for everything you're doing. They need to know your every move, and they're using it and using the scripture or using the word of God as a way of controlling you. So you have to look out for these red flags, because someone can be a Christian and in using their doctrine, their spiritual doctrine, to indoctrinate you to keep you in an abusive relationship. So those are some of the things to look out for.
Wow. Thank you, Sir Antonio Dawson. That's a lot, and I'm hoping we're able to digest and assimilate all that you just shared. We just have to think about that aspect of being equally yoked. At this time, we're going to take a second commercial break, and we're going to go back to the studio. Right now, we just want to say you're listening to the program, The Mailbox. We'll be right back.
Hello! Rata just got better with a new brand Rata bundle on Digicel, Jamaica's #1 LTE network. Serious? With up to 12 gigabytes of any-use data, up to 2,000 minutes for calls, plus dedicated data on Digicel apps, which now includes data for Spotify, Apple Music, and HBO Max. There's no better plan for all your content needs this summer. Say less. Me gonna get a plan up on the My Digicel app. Mr. Rata! Activate a Prime Rata bundle today for as low as $175.
Hello, Jamaica. Phosphate 60 days up to 60% discount sale is on now. Sale on electrical, lighting, solar cables. Get Philips LED bulbs for $190. Visit all branches for breakers, panels, solar floodlights, wires, switches, lighting, and more lighting. Happy 60th anniversary, Jamaica. Sale ends August 31. Open Sundays. Visit www.fossrich.shop.
Love 101 now presents Facts on Monkeypox. There are no treatments specifically for monkeypox virus infections. For mild cases of monkeypox, over the counter medications like ibuprofen and acetaminophen can help with symptoms. Avoiding skin to skin contact is the best way to limit the spread of monkeypox. That was Facts on Monkeypox, presented by Love 101 FM.
Love 101 presents Facts on Monkeypox. The monkeypox virus comes from the same family of viruses as smallpox, but it is not related to chickenpox. Common symptoms of monkeypox are fever, headache, muscle aches, and swollen lymph nodes. Monkeypox also causes a rash that looks like raised bumps on the skin. The virus typically spreads through bodily fluids or by touching the rash of someone who has monkeypox. Animals can also pass the virus to humans either by being scratched or bitten by the animal or by preparing, eating meat, or using products from an infected animal. That was Facts on Monkeypox, presented by Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the mailbox. We have with us today two distinguished guests, Dr. Paul Smith, a counseling psychologist at New Life Counseling and Psychotherapist Service. He's also a Justice of the Peace, Marriage Officer, founder, and one of the directors of Love and Restoration Ministries. He's a husband, associate counseling psychologist at Family Life International. We also have Antonio Dawson, a psychological therapist, emotional coach, support coach, founder of Speak Black Men Movement, which aims to educate and empower males about mental health. He's a father, author, husband, therapist of the year as well, from the Inside Out Wellbeing Awards. Congratulations. Kevin, I think I want us to go into this favorite folder, This favorite folder is quite interesting, and I want to hear what our response is. He has a date with her, and she brings a friend. Should he pay for the friend's meal? This is interesting. Which of the two of you heavyweights want to take the shot at this one?
Well, I think I don't mind. I don't mind. I think this is open to be interpreted by different persons. But for me personally, I think a man being a man is not just the support he gives to his woman. You also need to see how he treats others. And I'm not sure if a man, if a man is in a position to pay for both, I would definitely do that. If it is that he's not, then that's something that you would need to have a discussion about. But I think there's nothing wrong if he can't pay for both, if he can't afford it. But equally, if he can afford it, being a man doesn't mean that you're only going to be nice to your partner. Then that's something for the woman to look into also, because she would know if he's a good man based on how he treats other people. And oftentimes a man, one of the red flags is a man is only nice to you, but not nice to your friends, not nice to your family. That's a massive red flag that this could be something toxic moving forward. So that's just my view on it. Dr. Smith, I know you might have a lot to say on this.
Yeah, context is important. So if it was a prearranged idea, and I know that a friend of mine is coming, a friend of hers is coming tonight to join us, or this evening to join us, fine. But this approach where she just turned up with the friend, right? I would have an issue with it, and it might take a discussion thereafter as it relates to boundaries. It might have some suggestion as to boundaries. You make decisions, and I don't know about it. I'm not a part of it, right? So the context becomes important. If I'm appraised of it before, and I say, all right, she can come, and I can afford to pay for it, fine. But if I feel that she's been thrown into this piece without any preparation, financial or mentally or emotionally, right? that discussion will be had thereafter, right? I might try to save the night or save the date, but then certainly a discussion needs to be had thereafter.
Yes.
That hey, we should have discussed this before, but it's a case where it is agreed upon, and you say, all right, I'll take care of the meal, I'll take care of the bill, and it is known, it is established, then fine.
Yeah, I really
And
love that
Antonia
point
mentioned
about
something.
Thank you.
boundary.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
out of
so
the
none
context
of you
Yes.
gentlemen are of the
yes.
opinion that it was that communication should have been made before,
I think
and
that
if
was
it
made clear by
didn't
Kevin.
happen,
Dr. Kevin did say that that should be discussed
Dr.
before.
Paul Smith.
Yeah. So I think that level of communication should have been had before too. And I think it's so
Before, yeah.
important that the topic, the discussion around boundary is maintained, because that would be a red flag for the man about that woman if she could just bring people in and at the expense without telling you. It really speaks to boundaries being broken, and she's not being considerate or thinking about the financial health of the relationship. So I think that's a very important point, that communication is something that is done um, for that process.
De- Definitely. Delia from Bahamas says, good evening, gentlemen. Such an interesting discussion. I wish I had known some things earlier. Sigh. And this is why we're here. We want to encourage, we want to challenge, we want to empower our men. And once our men are empowered and in a good place, our women will benefit as well. Uh, there's Cherry from Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Good evening, gentlemen. Real talk. One of the scripture Christian husband use at their wife is, wife must submit to her own husband, but they fail to read or know further down in scripture it says, husband love your wives as our Christ loved the church. Thanks for the feedback. A question for you, gentlemen. Um, how do you know when a man is safe? And I'm asking the question in the context of a number of issues we have been having: intimate partner violence, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, and all women may be suffering, both in church, outside of the church. But how would you know? You're dating, you're courting, Dr. Smith. What are some of the signs, and those will be red flags that say this man is not a safe person, whether he's Christian or non-Christian? Or
Sure.
does the woman know that? Yeah.
And that's a real issue. It's a very real issue that a number of married persons, are women in particular, are now faced with. And even when they come to therapy, they mention that they saw some signs of it, but they ignored it because they thought it was a one-off. Or some say, boy, they prayed about it, right? That marriage would change them, which is a no-no. So I look at the issue of abuse. And most times, some persons tend to kind of turn a blind eye on the early signs of possible emotional abuse. But a woman has to have her eyes open. Is he controlling? Does he give me my space? Does he want to see me every second of the day? When when he calls and he doesn't get through to me, how does he behave? What does he say? Right? Does he question me all the time and asking me where I was at a particular time? Right? During the course of the day, does he try to isolate me from my family and my friends? Right? So the woman wants to go and see her sister, and he's saying, no, we have to go out this evening, right? We have to go out tomorrow. We need to spend the time together to know each other. You need to look out for those kind of signs, because those can be abusive further down the line, right? How does he talk? Does he talk to me when he's angry? How does he control his anger? How does he express his anger, right? Is he demeaning in his tone? What does he say to me? How does he speak of others? How does he speak of his exes, right? His ex-partners. Is he aggressive towards them? you know But how does he enjoy healthy relationship with parents, with siblings, with co-workers, right? What kind of person he is. And Antonia talked about the fact that, some of the Christian men might not be consistent, and I go for character, right? It's a dominant trait about him, right? Do I tend to just want to have a reputation as opposed to character? Who am I? Who am I when I'm not at church? Who am I when I'm angry? Who am I when I'm not pleased with a decision you make, right? Who am I when I am not pleased with probably a weakness you have? How do I express that, right? Am I controlling? Am I jealous, right? Am I jealous if I have a friend? How do I behave towards that friend? And as I said, do I try to cut you off? Those are some early signs of abuse, right? If there's an argument, a conflict, what's my body language? Is my hand going up? Am I gesticulating in a particular way? Am I clenching my fist? Right? You have to look out for those signs, and just don't say he was angry and I made him angry, right? We have something called gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
Do I try to manipulate you emotionally, right? And say, boy, you were speaking stupidly, it's not my fault, it's yours because you think too deep, or you make too much of little, and I pass the blame over to you. These are some things that women have to open their eyes and look for, because
Mm-hmm.
abuse is real, whether the man is Christian or non-Christian. It is real, right? And the first sign of it, you have to be careful there. You have to make a decision and say, no, we're going to explore this some more. And the final thing about the submission thing, and even the question from Cherry that talks about the wife and the husband, you're not there yet. But this topic can come up for a discussion. What do you think about submission? What's my role in the relationship? What's your role in the
Yes.
relationship? And you gauge the conversation from day one. How do you feel about it? Right? How do you feel about a woman who works and works more money than that kind of thing? These important things must come out, and therefore dating must not be rushed. It must not
Mm-hmm.
be something rushed, right? And finally, is the man hasting in the relationship, right? Is he does he want to get things done overnight, to get intimate, to do things, and then you don't know three-quarter of what he's about, right? You need to look at that. But look for the controlling, the jealousy behavior. Those are important.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Smith. Here's a question I have. Can flags change color? Can something that appears to be red become green? And can something that was green, you found it was deception to lure you in? Tell me a bit
Yes,
about that, Antonio.
yes.
I think that's a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question because I think while we're looking at the red flags and the and having this conversation tonight, we should also bear in mind that people can change and people have the potential to evolve and to become a better version of themselves. And so I do believe, just as though we have the red light and the green light, that people who find themselves at the red light can also experience the green light if they're willing to work on themselves, because there's a process called introspection. If one is willing to look within themselves and see things that needs to change and are willing to do the work, they can become a better person. Now, many of us, we are socialized by our environment and we learn certain behaviors from our parents. There's a process in psychology that is called transgenerational trauma, or there's also a process called post-traumatic slave syndrome. Most of the things that we acquired throughout the generations as men were passed down to us. So for myself, some of the things that I learned growing up, as I become a man and as I become more in tune with myself and what I want for my family and for my future, I started looking at things that I needed to change. And that's how I was able to position myself not to be a man who values promiscuity, not to be a man who wants to have enough girl and girl in a bungle, but a man who has the mindset that I want to have one wife and I want to build a family. Not that these tendencies are not in me. I see the potential where these things could actually operate, but I've become in tune with my personal values. And so I've made my values what I live by. If a man can identify the things that are within them, recognize, be vulnerable with yourself, recognize your weaknesses, recognize the weaknesses of your generation, your parents, or your community, and say, I want to be the different. I want to make a difference here, and start to put systems in place. Yes, you can change, and I've seen it many times. People who had bad relationships turn their lives around and become persons who value relationship, put aside promiscuity, put aside abuse. It can happen. But I'm just saying, if you're in the context of relationship where this is a problem for a prolonged period of time as a woman, don't stay in that relationship hoping the man to change, and you're enduring abuse. You're enduring suffering. That's not what I'm saying. If something happened a one-off time and the person say, let's go to counseling, let's do the work, and you're seeing the changes, then that's how I would say, that there's a system or a pathway to change. If you're in that early stage of a relationship and you've identified certain things and you can speak to that person about the things that you're not liking, and you see the effort, it goes back to investment. What are you putting in that emotional bank account? What are you putting in that commitment bank account? Something has to be going in, because if there's only withdrawal, there might be no hope for that relationship. So you might just need to think about ending it.
Thank you, Sir Dawson. We have a few Facebook comments, Kevin. So I think we want to take those comments. May we have the Facebook comments? Then says, good evening, everyone. Okay. We're going to, good evening, everyone. Woman there. Very important program this evening, as always. Thanks, then. Ron Foster says, when human interfere with nature, they don't normally win. When a man are talking in the church, when a man and a woman, they immediately are encouraged into marriage. If they are allowed to understand each other at the same rate as those in the world, then there won't be so much divorce among Christians. Kev?
We're not hearing. Sir Kevin, we're not hearing you, sir.
Oh, sorry about that. This is Dylan, says, good night, mailbox. I'm in love with a female at my church, but after telling her how I feel, she said there's no connection between us. Like, seriously, she don't even give me a chance. Should I leave her alone? So that is a question that, gentlemen, you'd have to speak on, because I'm learning a lot here, thanks to the panelists.
I think Kevin. I think what's the name of this person again? I missed the name.
Dylan.
It was Dylan.
Dylan. I think Dylan. I mean, often this is a common scenario that you find in church. Sometimes who you want don't want you, and sometimes who wants you don't want them. But I think the most important thing is to continue to be you and to continue to be true. Because one of the things is that if you're forcing a relationship, sometimes it is least likely to ignite. But if you continue to be yourself, be true to you, be true to your values, uphold your moral standards, she will see the man that you are, and maybe she will be attracted to you, or maybe not, but maybe the right person will see you and will see you for the man that you are. So don't be discouraged. I know that can be quite heartbreaking, if you're really invested in someone and they're not showing that same interest. But the most important thing is that you want to know who you are and not forcing someone to be attracted to you. Because if you're forcing something, anywhere there's a push, there's going to be a pull. And if you're pushing too hard, she might be pulling away from you.
Thanks, Antonio. Dr. Smith, any comment on that one?
Yes, so I believe there's always a cause behind every behavior. So chances are that female might be going through some issues. Chances are Dylan might be at a different stage than the female, right? So I would not force it if I were Dylan. right? But chances are, as Antonia said, if I be myself, and it is meant to be, or it is meant that we get engage in conversation, it will happen. But being aggressive, whether passively or actively about it, I don't think that's a good ingredient, right? But chances are, through other conversation, he might learn eventually why the female might have said that. She might be going through some issues. Chances are she might have gone through some relationships and she's not healed. Probably the most previous, she's not healed from it. Or probably, she looks around and based on her experiences, just supposing, she might just have some discoloration as it relates to relationships. So I would not force it to
Yeah.
begin with, if that is the approach that Dylan is
Hmm.
using.
Yeah.
There's a question there about age gap. Trevor says good responses, but what about age gap? Is there an age gap that you say this one is not compatible? Do not go into this. Is there a ball point, on an average from both of you that you said yes, this one can work? Talk to us about that age business there, the gap.
The song says, I'm in love with a man twice my age.
Go ahead, Doc.
It's something that must be fleshed out, must be discussed, and should not be overlooked. I don't think it's a one size fit all, but it depends on both persons. But persons need to look at both sides of it. Say that we're 20 years apart, and there's a discussion, right? Say that I want to have children, but my fiance is past childbearing age, or she has some issues going on, right? We have to be honest about how we feel about it, right? If she's 20 years older than I am, and the man is up, if are we still able to connect in a particular way? When the changes, the physiological changes, the biological changes start to take place, am I still able to work with it? So I don't think it's something that one needs to gloss over, but need to sit down and really discuss all of these scenarios. I mean, you can't fully rehearse, and say that when this happens, this is how I'm going to behave, but it must be brought to the fore. So when a decision is made, it is a concerted effort. You make an informed decision, right? So it's not just about how I feel, but I'm looking at some real issues that might confront us, right?
Hmm.
As the years go by. Am
Hmm.
I prepared for this? Will I be
Hmm.
there? That kind of thing. It needs to be fleshed out.
Hmm.
Man to woman, woman to man. This is where we are. The woman is 20 years older, and guess what? I am reaching menopause within a few months, right? And
Yes.
we discuss what menopause means, the implication of it, right? Will I be there for you? Will my needs be met just the same? It has to be fleshed out.
Yes.
These are my few words in Jesus' name. It must be fleshed out because I have seen
And-
many times.
Yes.
I've seen it so many times, and they reach a stage. The woman or the man, whoever it is at a different stage. And you realize in some marriages too, you find that some older men now start to be attracted to some younger women, right? You find something, and vice versa, because after a while they're just not at the same place
yes.
emotionally, psychologically. They're at different places, right?
Hmm.
And they can't connect anymore because there was no deep discussion or preparation for that which is to come. Whether it is a
Hmm.
tsunami or an earthquake or a category 5, they gloss over it and it was never considered as a part of the discussion.
Hmm.
Oh,
But I'm
thanks
just going to
so much.
share. I'm just going to share one
Antonia,
point, 2 points on this. I think feelings can prevent you from seeing the future. And
Yeah.
oftentimes when we find that emotional connection or that sexual gravity pulling us together, we sometimes become so consumed by this that we get pulled into what we call cognitive errors. We're thinking only from our view at that point, which creates a mental filter. We're not seeing the bigger picture. But if you face your relationship like a blueprint, you will get to recognize the different areas that you need to consider. No man builds a house and only think of the roof. You need to think of the foundation, think of the windows, think of all the other things. Now, what I'm saying this to say, when you're developing a relationship with someone who is older than you, yes, they might have good qualities, but at the end of the day, is that when a house is built and you have materials that are old and new, it might create a problem. So if someone is 20 years older, will we be able to really last in that relationship? When I'm ready sexually, you might not be in that place. When we think about other things like children, is it fair for your children to have a parent who is 70 and one, and one who is like just 50, and you're coming into that relation? It's going to be a strain on your children and their future to be taking care of that. So there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to this. Yes, there might be an immediate pull and attraction, but is this the big picture? Am I just looking through the filter of my emotion, or am I keeping in mind the entire scene of what could evolve? Not that it doesn't work, because I've seen people with 20-year difference and it worked. I've seen people with 10-year difference and it worked. So it can work, but I'm just saying, you have to know what is it that you want from a relationship, and are you willing to live with the disadvantages if they outweigh the advantages?
Thank you.
So
Thank
Dawson,
you.
that sounds as if you're saying that indeed sitting down together, premarital counseling, talking about expectations, very important, very, very important. Okay, we have some other messages here. Let's get in time to close. He says, great advice, Dr. Paul Smith. Nikki Brown from James Hill says that. Talk to me about how one can be married for 6 years and just not growing in love with your spouse. You were in love with the person from beginning, but you loved them and you thought that the love would have blossomed into being love. Can that relationship work? And the final one says, good afternoon to the host and guests. What about when you are not yet married and your partner wants sex and you refuse to do it, and he tells you that there's a lot of women out there who doesn't have a man? He has been faithful, but I believe he says that because he wants to intimidate me. We're supposed to get married soon. We have been going for over 5 years. He has a very strong sex drive. We have a minute. I don't know if anyone, it seems we need a part two,
A
Kev.
minute. We need a part two for this. But I think, to be honest, waiting for 5 years in a relationship when you're adults and you really want to explore each other is putting you at a disadvantage. I think personally, I would not advise anyone that I counsel to be dating for 5 years, because that's setting up the relationship for people to might want to go outside. Yes, you can be faithful, but a long drawn out engagement can cause problem in a relationship. So I would advise, get married as soon as you can, if you had gone through the process and you're ready, rather than drawing out the process.
Dr. Smith, your take on this? We really, Dylan, so we have to do part two. So we may have to consider part two, gentlemen. But just any
Yes,
take on this? We're just
yes, I
on closing.
concur. So time is very important. How long have we been dating? And are we now sure that we want to move to the next level? That's one. But if it's early in the dating relationship, right, and you realize that we discuss the issue of sexual purity, and you find that one is still adamant that we need to go, we have only been talking for a week, and within the week we want to go that side, that's a different scenario. But if you have been dating, say, for a long time, and there can be a downside to dating and even being engaged indefinitely too, right? If you know that we need to move on to the next level, then fine, go ahead and do it, right? If there are red flags, then you need to say, all right, we can't go, right? But yeah,
Hey,
that's my response.
that's where we have
I
to
think we
end
need a
it.
part
One
two and
person
part
said
three
five
before.
years seems like a layaway plan. We want to say thanks, and we're saying thanks to our producer, Tony K. Bromfield. Thanks to our technical engineer, Timothy Butler, for technical support, both our esteemed guests, Antonia Dawson and Dr. Paul Smith. Okay.
Yes, and just want to congratulate my wife, who has been married to me for the last 33 years. Anniversary this Friday, Muriel Bailey. So just want to big her up as well. Thanks, listeners,
Congrats.
viewers, participants. Thank you. Thank you. Remind listeners, please share and comment on each episode on our YouTube channel. Previous episodes are also available for viewing and note taking on Love 101 FM Jamaica. So, this is the program designed for men with guests who are men, hosted by yours truly, Kevin Bailey and Courtney Morrison. So, catch you next week,
This
same
was
place,
the
same time.
mailbox, and it was sponsored by Fosrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people, and brought to you by Love 101 FM, the family station. Next week, Monday.
Monday, you.